Welcome back to Exceptional Undergrads, a podcast where we interview successful students and explore how they achieve successes at such a young age. Be sure to check out our show notes at exceptionalundergrads.com for all resources mentioned in today's episode. Today, I welcome Lisbeth Adolphus to the show. Lisbeth is a current student of University of North Carolina, Greensboro. Originally from the Bronx, New York, Lisbeth took me through her wild journey from high school to college, and now she started 3 businesses, including her social media marketing agency, LDV Media. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Lisbeth Adolphus. Liz, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you here.
Hi, it's good to be here.
Awesome. Well, would you like to get us started here and tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you're working on right now?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Lisbeth. I was born and raised in the Bronx, New York, for a little over 16 years. Then we came down here, Winston-Salem. We were originally in Peters Creek, and then we moved out to Pathtown. So it's still in Winston. But yeah, been in Winston for now, I believe, maybe 6-7 years. I'm currently a junior for UNCG. I commute, so I'm not indoor. And I'm pursuing my bachelor's in business administration. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Besides, having the businesses that I have one real estate business where we do wholesaling. We do a couple of property maintenance stuff. Rental, Airbnb, all that good stuff. I have a digital marketing agency. Where we, it's self-explanatory, but marketing for companies and marketing for small businesses, to get more exposure in socials and whatnot. And then I also have a private automotive detailing business, more like a summer gig, you can say, because that's where it's mostly more active, I guess. And yeah, those are the 3 businesses that I have right now. And aside from that, I currently started a new position with Blue Raven Solar, being a lead sales rep for them. So, yeah, a lot of things to juggle there.
There you go. Nice. And we found time here for you. I know I was talking with your assistant. Is that an assistant like in person with you, or is that a virtual assistant?
So she's actually in New York.
Ah.
Yeah. So we went to school together back in middle school, and I had a job showing. I was like, hey, I'm in need of an assistant, and she took the position, and we've been good ever since. So.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
I've been looking into it myself. I remember I looked up some sort of just like virtual assistant site. First time I heard of that was from the book, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss.
Yeah.
You read that book?
Yeah. It's a really good book.
He loves automating basically everything. And I've taken some of that into building out Exceptional Undergrads here, which is sweet. Yeah. I've noticed something myself, which I want to hear, I guess, from you as well. I think sometimes at the start, it's hard for like student entrepreneurs to like delegate things. Mm-hmm. I found myself that way as well, because whenever you're starting out, it's just you have to do like everything. And especially like myself, I take pride in all the things I do.
Right.
And I think delegating is something that I'm trying to work on. I can't really do it like as much now because like I just don't have the capital for it as of now.
Right.
But as soon as I get that, I think relinquishing some of that control is going to be huge for me.
Oh, for sure.
3 businesses here and working on another job as well. I'd love to hear what you have.
I mean, like you said, it's not something that's easy or not something that is simple for a college student to come around, right? Because a lot of the time, entrepreneurs who are starting out in college don't have that capital. And nowadays in this economy, you need capital to invest in some sort of business. This podcast, you needed to invest into mics, into cameras, whatever the case may be, some type of capital. So when it comes to delegating and knowing when you're able to financially, it can be hard. But I guess, understanding when you reach a point where, I have 3 businesses, right? But you reach a point where it's like, okay, I can't do this all by myself. I need some help. And it's definitely an investment, right? She's working with me, but there's something that has to come with that, right? So it was definitely hard too, because I have a really strong character. And what I mean by that is I like to take all the pressure on myself. Right. So I like to do my calls. I like to do my emails. I like to do whatever the case may be myself. So passing that down was like, ugh. Like, do I trust you enough to do this? And that's something too, like, you have your business, And referring back to your podcast, you have your podcast, but am I able to trust you with all this information that I handle? You know, these are things that, you know, in the business sense, it can be difficult. So really just understanding that you're not alone in that aspect, and knowing when you need help. At the end of the day, you know, a business does not run itself. You know, I used to work for Chick-fil-A. Prior to this, I was a executive operations, actually, a manager there for over 6 years. I just ended my career there this past February. And by all means, like, you definitely need a team to run a business at the end of the day.
Sweet. Well, walk me through some of these businesses that you've started.
Yeah.
Because I know you've got 3 of them right now. And I mean, that's very impressive and juggling a lot of that. But I mean, how'd you start up this social media marketing agency?
Yeah. So I would say when COVID was occurring, you know, everybody was starting their business, you know, e-commerce was a really big thing. That was the primary thing. And I actually was in e-commerce for a little bit. I had a clothing business for a little over 2 years. It didn't go, I mean, I wasn't making a crazy amount of money. You know, I made maybe for the year, like $1,000 or something. I mean, I wasn't really consistent. It was like testing the waters to see. And on top of that, I was supposed to be a nursing major. So I was nowhere near pursuing business or sales. So had that business, and that kind of sparked my interest into being an entrepreneur and what that was about. I ended that business, and then I kind of got into digital marketing, and I kind of was intrigued as to, you know, you can really help a business grow, you know, through Facebook ads and campaigns, you know, their marketing, email marketing, all these different things. And it sparked my interest because I'm really good with tech. So it was like, okay, tech, marketing, and talking, boom, I got this. Mm-hmm. That kind of just led the journey from there. And now the agency has, I think, maybe 2 years now. And we've worked with, I mean, I would say over 100 folks, you know, doing projects for them and just small things, getting them up there to what they want in revenue. And we've seen a lot of success and a lot of ups and downs, but good amount of success in terms of the business. So
I'll tell you what, the social media marketing agency, it's impressive. I've got a quick story for you with that.
Yeah.
My own experience. So this was this past summer, I think it was. I had this grandiose idea to start up my own social media marketing agency.
For sure.
And I was like, it shouldn't be too bad. I mean, I've watched the guy Ime and Gaji on YouTube for forever, if you're familiar with him. And I was like, you know what, like, I'm just gonna go for it. I'll try it. My ideal thing was just like SEO for people, and I like looked it up on Google Maps and tried to like figure this stuff out. Decided to go online, like start up a whole website, built out a nice website. I mean, it was a beautiful website. You should have seen it before it went down. But I didn't realize how hard it actually would be to like get clients and like cold call the people just randomly. And that lasted for about probably like a month or so before I decided that's not for me anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that happens every now and then for me in the past, and not anymore, thankfully, because I've really found something with Exceptional Undergrads that I really like and I want to continuously work on all the time. So much so to almost a fault at times, honestly.
Wow.
I've found that. But that was something where I started other businesses before, and I'd kind of like quit on them in a sense, where I like kind of gave up after a while and kind of jumped ship to go different places. So that's something that I noticed kind of with you, with the amount of businesses that you have. Have you ever felt like kind of starting something new and just sort of jumping to somewhere else?
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean, let me tell you, it's like I've jumped from job to job. Not really, I mean, but in the business sense, I mean, like I went from clothing to digital marketing to real estate to automotive to now like back in sales, like door to door. And it's just like, I'm always doing something new. Like when it comes to me, I'm never like in one position. And people are like, you know, oh my God, like you have 3 businesses. Like, what are you doing working? I'm like, girl, I can't fathom sitting still. And just always learning more. Like, yeah, you have these 3 businesses, but like, I just want to experience different things, and just get more knowledge. Like I even thought about podcasting, just believe it or not.
I believe it. I mean, you're doing a whole bunch of stuff anyways. You just told me about
it.
Of course.
But again, it's like only so much you can do. And it's so much that I can take. I mean, it's a lot. But I'm always willing to learn. That's the bottom line.
I want to touch on the learning for
Yeah.
sure, because I think that you've mentioned that a few times. And I think there's a wealth of knowledge under
Oh, yeah.
like an iceberg that we need to tap into.
For sure.
But I want to touch on first, how do you stay focused on the priorities of like these businesses and really focus on being productive in what matters? Because I mean, like I said, before I found what I'm doing now and really worked into that over a couple of years, honestly, I would just kind of jump ship. And I think that that's where some student entrepreneurs are, honestly, is they see something and they don't get immediate success out of it. So they jump ship to the next thing. And it's very easy to just flip back and forth almost impulsively.
Yeah.
And how are you able to just like work on what matters and stay productive, while also, of course, being able to try different things every now and then?
It's not easy. I mean, I have ADHD and ADD, so you can imagine how my life consists of. Like, right now we can be talking about something and I'll jump to something else. That's how I am with the businesses. You know, it's definitely a juggle. But one thing that I kind of mastered, I'm continuing to master, and this is from a book that I read, The Compound Effect. I don't know if you ever heard of it, by Darren Hardy. Great book. I've read it maybe 5 times in the past year. Everything comes down to your habits, right? Your habits create your routine. There's a saying that if you drink water for the next 30 days, after those 30 days, it's going to be a habit for you to have a gallon of water every day, right? So if you create these habits early, it's going to generate a consistent routine. So that's how everything played out. I go to the gym in the morning. Okay, I read my emails after. I have my meetings here. Whatever the case may be, I have a rigorous routine, so to say. Obviously, there's days where it's like all over the place because I'm like that sometimes. But it all comes down to your habits, and your habits create your character. Simple as that.
Have you read the book Atomic Habits?
Oh, yeah.
By James
I
Clear?
actually have a friend who I lend the book to now, and he's reading it. He's like, "Oh my God, like this is amazing." I'm like, "Yeah, I know."
It comes up a lot on this podcast, I've noticed, because many exceptional undergrads who I've talked to are very routine based, and even myself. I've got my calendar up right here too, and I started putting in like pretty much everything in my calendar a while ago, and then just sort of showing up to what was on the calendar.
Yeah.
And I noticed that was huge. I figured out as well for myself that routines work extremely well for me, because I just go right to like the next thing and it's good.
Right.
Like you mentioned, like going to the gym and then checking your emails afterwards. For me in the mornings, like now I'll go to the gym, and then after I go to the gym, I mean, like I'm going to shower. And then, like next thing after that, like get the meditation in, get the journaling in. And I decided like to start reading like a certain book. It's called The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday.
Haven't read it.
That was my New Year's resolution, which I don't really believe in New Year's resolutions. I think that you should just start doing whatever you want to do immediately, which is why I started this podcast in November. Could have started it like in January. I thought that was stupid, to be honest with you. Be straight with you here, Liz.
Right.
But I think The Daily Stoic has been great. It's kind of grounded me, where it just has like just literally just one page of like a few paragraphs a day, just some sort of like stoicism thing, which I like, because it kind of keeps me grounded in the sense of like not impulsively jumping to a bunch of things. So that's been nice. But I love reading and looking at that stuff. Oh,
you never stop learning. When you read and listen, that's basically the recipe for an entrepreneur. Reading and listening, taking notes, reading, listening, journaling, like that's what's going to build you in a business. If you don't read, if you don't listen, you're not going to get any success. Simple as that. Even if it's like a 5-minute podcast, doesn't matter.
What are some of the podcasts or books besides the couple ones that we've mentioned so far that you're looking into as of lately?
There's one on Apple, and I can actually put it up here because I'm not sure of the title. And he does podcasts. It is called 0 to 7 Figures, Daily Advice for Entrepreneurs. He published it back in 2019, and he hasn't really posted since. But he has maybe 70 different episodes. And with me, I'm like, my attention span is not long if I'm not medicated. And so with him, he has like his longest podcast, I think it's 10 to 11 minutes. And I mean, he just digs right deep. Like, okay, this is how you're going to be successful. Okay, this is what you should do to reach success. Okay, why are you failing here? Like, what are you doing? And these are different things that he speaks about. Obviously about success and entrepreneurship, but about life too. That's really interesting. And I try to listen to one a day somewhere in time because, like I said, reading and listening is very important, even if it's just a page, like you said, or, whatever the case may be. So every day I try to listen to one, and it just kind of feeds your brain. It kind of gives you a gentle reminder, like, hey, like, I started this. I got to continue pushing this. This is going to be the legacy.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And the podcast reminded me of a YouTube channel that I would watch. It's by a guy named Alex Becker.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he's written a book, and I've read it. It was very good. It was called The 10 Pillars of Wealth. Where he just broke down like 10 different things that like all people who are wealthy do, or that he's noticed mindset wise. And his YouTube channel, if you go back to, I'll tell you this too. He just sold his company for over $100 million, I think it was, a little while ago. Wow. Whatever it was, I don't know the exact thing, but it was like a substantial amount of money. Like he's doing well. And he has it's like from 4 or 5 years ago at this point, most of the videos, he has like a time period where he kind of just goes on here and sort of just talks about like lessons that he's learned and why like he has like certain things. Like I'm looking through some of the videos right now. One of them is, this is kind of funny. Some of the stuff is funny. And what he does as well is like the first like minute of the video is always like some wild, like crazy stuff to like weed out the people who like won't even like understand what's going on. So he jokes around, which is kind of funny. But this one video, I watched it. It's 16 minutes long. It says, "This 3 a.m. daily routine unlocked my quote unquote God mode focus." And it's like random stuff like that, which is kind of funny. But he dives into stuff, and I've learned a bunch from him. I've also learned some from a guy named Alex Hormozy. Have you heard of him?
Yeah. Heard of him.
He's got a couple of books out right now, and he has like content all over the place at this point. But that's been something that has been very nice. Like I just love looking into things and learning.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is great. But I mean, you're learning a whole bunch of stuff right now, and you're working on businesses. You're also involved in the business school on campus at UNCG.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell me a little bit about that program? Because it looks like it's heavily involved with helping other college students.
Yeah. And
I think that's a very big point that this podcast is trying to do as well.
For sure. Last semester I was in the team leader program for the Bryan School of Business. And basically what you're doing there, right? You have incoming freshmen, we all know how it feels, current graduates right now, undergraduates. We all know how it feels when you're a freshman and you're like, you don't know how it's gonna play out, you're like the new kid in school. And so this program basically provides, a course, business 115, which is what I was in. We have 115, 215, and I think 216. I was in 115 with a freshman. And aside from the curriculum that we're given to give them, right, you are giving them life advice, from a business standpoint too, giving them perspective. And just letting them know, like, hey, you're not alone. I was once in your shoes. Like last year, I was once in your shoes, or the year before that. I was once in your shoes. And I get everything that you're going through, like all these changes. Like, you're in high school, you're in college, and you're the new kid on the block, and you're in the business school, but like you don't know which route to go, and really just finding yourself. What is your personal brand? That was one of the main things that we discussed. What is your personal branding? What does that mean as a young entrepreneur? And just giving them advice and feedback from that standpoint. It was a really good semester. A lot of key takeaways and definitely seeing faces, light up when it's like, hey, like, okay, she understands what I'm going through. And she has a lot of perspective and knowledge as to, tapping into the business sense and something that you're able to learn from. So I was with Susan Terrell. She is working for Atrium right now, HR. So it's like different backgrounds of careers that people come in this program and work with. Like it's not just somebody who's in business and, knows everything or like anything like that. It's like you got nurses, you have people who are actually entrepreneurs, like Tiffany Grant, who was my business teacher at the time, and Maggie Stem. Love them. Shout out to them. They're amazing. So it was a really great program, and it's still great.
How much of that comes down to reflection of what you went through your freshman year, you think?
Oof. Honestly, the story as to how I got into the program is actually pretty funny. Like Tiffany, who was my Business 115 professor, along with Maggie Sim, who was my team leader, I guess at the end of the semester, they vouched for me to become a team leader. I'm like, what? Me? Like, I mean, I know I'm a great participant in this class, but I didn't think I was worthy of being in a program, nevertheless to teach, kids, so to say. Anyway, long story short, they vouched for me and I ended up getting the position, which was amazing. Did my time with them that semester. But prior to that story and being in Business 115, like I said, I was really going to pursue nursing. Like my mom always said, you got to have a good job. You got to, the spiel with parents. They want to see you do good in life, and they want you to have a set career. Mm-hmm. And taking Business 115, I was honestly very lost in terms of my career, and like, wondering, hey, like, did I do the right thing by doing business? It's definitely not an easy career because you got to work your way up in what you want to do. But it was a reflection because it was kind of like a slap in the face. I was never an easy child growing up. I was always the troublemaker. I honestly didn't get my stuff together till maybe after high school, so to say. The person who I am now is not the person that I was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So it was definitely a slap in the face when it was like, who are you? Which is what the course is about. Who are you? And I was like, wow, I don't know who I am. So that was one of the key takeaways that I took to implement into my course with my students. Who are you? What do you stand for? What is your personal brand? Okay, you're in business. What are you going to do? Because everybody can say you're an entrepreneur. Everybody can say I have a podcast. Everybody can say I have 3 businesses. Everybody can say all these things. But what does your business stand for that makes you separate from the rest? Why you did the business? And why you're doing what you're doing. Simple as that. Again, back to the personal brand, which is the whole concept of the course. So
that's sweet. Who were you before you came to college and figured some stuff out?
Ooh, it's a deep question there. Before college, well, I wanted to pursue basketball. I was an athlete. I was in track. I was in cross country at one point. And I did basketball. But due to my academics, I was failing my freshman year of high school. I had over 100 absences and like 90 different tardies. And for those 3 years of high school, I was really that like kid that was skipping school and going to do other things that I should have never been doing, going here, going there, party here, but, really causing a headache to my parents, but to myself too, because it was like I was throwing my life away. I could have been doing something else, So that person back then was a person with zero ambition, zero motivation, not knowing what I wanted to do in my life besides follow what my mom was saying, even though I didn't want to do what she was saying. I didn't know who I was mentally in terms of like my life. And again, I was that troublemaker kid, you call me, hey, let's go here. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go, and then, after my senior year when I graduated, got into college, that first year was really like a wake up call. Like, okay, COVID happened, COVID already happened, but COVID happened. I had my small business that didn't succeed how I wanted it to. And that also was like a slap in the face. It was like, okay, you did good, but you weren't consistent enough. And that's another thing. When you are not consistent in these things in your life, whatever the case may be, it can take a toll on you, and it can mess up your routine too. So.
Was there any sort of turning point that you had maybe in high school or that freshman year of college where you kind of understood like, man, I need to get my shit together here?
Yeah.
My coach used to scream at me on baseball in high school, like just screaming, like, figure it out. And I remember myself, like, after I was in whenever my uncles like came to High Point, they like gave me like we have a steakhouse on campus, so we went to the steakhouse and like took them out. And then they were like, hey, like we should do this challenge and whatnot. And I was like, sure, like I can beat you guys and like I'll win $50, like sweet.
Right.
But I actually realized like after a while, like, oh man, like I could be in a really bad spot if like I didn't switch this up. So that was my turning point, and I mentioned that a bunch of times. But I mean, was there anything that kind of stood out to you, or was it just a slow process of transformation?
Like I said, the first 3 years of high school was definitely chaotic. I didn't have a clear mind as to who I was, what I wanted to do. But the turning point actually was entering my senior year. COVID happened, like I said, we were at home. Being at home sucked for a lot of people. I mean, for me, it was nice, but it sucked too, because it was like, oh, I got to join classes online and stuff like that. But anyway, seeing everybody graduate and having an idea of what they wanted to do, in my case, with my class that I graduated with, a lot of people, okay, I'm going to Howard to be a lawyer. I'm going to Wake to do this. I'm going to this. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to UCG, but what am I actually going to do there? How am I going to actually bring value to somebody's life? That was really the pinpoint for me. Like, how am I going to add value to you? How are they going to add value to me? And it hit me at the end of my senior year. And it was like, okay, you got to create that shift. Like, read a book or something, or find somebody that can like mentor you, do something, start something. And yeah, I hit the end of senior year. So everybody graduate, have a conceptualized idea of what they want to do with their life. And I was kind of like that outside kid who was like, okay, well, I'm gonna stay here and do whatever. I was also really comfortable in the position that I was before, Chick-fil-A. Grateful for them. But I mean, when you should never be comfortable in a job. I gave 6 years of my life there. And now that I'm not there no more in the fast food industry, it's like I was withholding a lot of my potential. And that's something that I'm learning now. I have the businesses. I have my new job, right? But even then, it was just like I was still holding myself back from a lot of different things. So, yeah, definitely, senior year was definitely the shift in my life.
So you have this moment, senior year, you see everybody, they're going out there, they're graduating, they're going to do really cool things. You want to be a part of that, but you have no idea what's going on. What was the process for you to then be able to really transform yourself into who you are today? Because I was there myself. I can speak on that. And I'm sure that there has to be millions of people out there. There's crazy amounts of, there's millions of I think the number was 15 million undergraduate students.
Right.
So there very well could be a million undergrads right now who are in the exact same situation.
For sure.
It's not like we need your exact thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I can speak on this. I just out of curiosity want to hear what you have to say about switching up some of your habits to really build you into who you are today.
My sister, again, I was doing all these things, being a hassle to my parents, a lot of different things that I experienced behind closed doors, family-wise, that led to my decisions, right? At the end of the day, we are human. We make mistakes. But you have a choice. In life, you have choices. And throughout those years, I was making incorrect choices. And that led to a lot of consequence. My career, my academics, my basketball, it led to a lot of things. I had to sacrifice that. And that was something that hurt a lot. I wish I was in D1 right now, honestly speaking. But, everything has its way and its purpose in life. So, it was just, what was I representing to her? She's seeing her sister do all this BS. Is that who I'm going to follow? Is that what I want her to see? No. So being better, obviously wanting a shift in my life personally, but showing them hey, I was a badass kid, but this badass kid now has 3 successful businesses that run on their own. Simple as that. And now she has a sister who she can rely on. There's not any hesitation when it comes to anything. She has a figure to look at, so to say.
Younger sister?
Yeah, she's 15. She goes to Reagan High School. She's actually in track right now in regionals. So fingers crossed, she does good.
I actually, that played a part in a lot of my stuff. Not like fully, but I will say I'm the oldest of 3 kids.
Mm.
So I'm going through everything first. And I feel like this actually came up in one of my classes the other day somehow. Mm-hmm. They asked us like about, what does it mean like being an older sibling? I was like, well, I mean, I feel like part of being an older sibling is like paving the path for your younger siblings and making it easier for them. So by even doing this podcast and learning other information, writing 80,000 words of a book and going out there and trying different things, I'm able to almost like go out, try these different things, and then report back to my brother and sister and be like, hey guys, like I already went through all this, like just do this, like don't make the same mistakes as me. And it's tough though as well, because I mean, I of course didn't have that. So I would have loved to have somebody, I say that now, like I would have loved to have someone who like could have helped me out. Right. But then there's also the sense of like everyone has like their own individual life, and it's very easy for people to just like disregard information. Oh, yeah. Because I mean, even my dad, he'll probably laugh at me, especially now. But he told me to read the book. It's called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield.
Heard that book, yeah.
It pretty much lays down like a whole bunch of just different ways of like being successful and like walking you through a lot of it. Jack Canfield does a good job in that book of citing basically like every single other book that you can think of, right, which is nice. Right. But my dad told me to read this book. Man, it seems like forever. Like seriously, he probably was telling me in like 6th grade or something. Right. He was like, all right, like you need to read this book. You got to do it. Like go for it. Like, come on, you got to do it. And I just refused to read the book. I refused to read it until my sophomore year of college, whenever I'd already like made a shift of stuff. And I remember I like deleted social media and put my books app in the spot where Instagram used to be. Right. So I'd open up my phone and click on Instagram, which was the books app. Yeah. And I started reading that book, and it was awesome. Like it started where I learned a whole bunch of stuff. But that's when I really realized, I was like, man, I really hope my younger siblings don't have that exact situation that I did with my dad. And I see it sometimes because I like I said, I told you earlier, like I'm working on building out like courses and training. So part of that is taking notes on different podcasts and anything that like I just want to learn about. Right. So I've got like pages of notes of like different podcasts that are like super cool. And what I do is I give my brother and sister like the literal like information that like I'm already going to use to like build the courses and stuff. For sure. I'm not charging them for anything. So I literally gave them, I have like a shared Google Drive folder of like 50 different like notes of like things. I think it was for like podcasts specifically. Right. I was like, all right guys, like here's access to that. Like just go and read it. It's like it's condensing down like 3-hour long podcasts to like what we need. Just like go and read it, like try something. Right. But it's tough sometimes. I know I went on a little rant there. But
no, you're good.
I like and relate to the sibling.
Oh yeah. It's like I said, it's hard when you're the primary sibling, the oldest one. And you have to create that pathway. It's a lot on your shoulders.
So a big part of your story as well, which I've noticed, is this move from New York to North Carolina. That happened, you said, at 16?
Yeah, so 15 and a half, 16, turning on 16, yeah.
So that's mid-high school or so.
Yeah.
How did that shift from the environment up in the Bronx down to the Triad region switch up how you were going about things? Do you think that might have impacted your shift as well?
Oh yeah. I mean, this is a place that I called home, and now you're taking me out my home and you're putting me somewhere where in the middle of nowhere. And granted, all of our family's down here, like from both sides. They all moved down here. My grandma was the first person to move down here. We were visiting North Carolina for 10 years. Every single summer. So there was not a summer where we did not come for 2-3 weeks. So I had a general idea of where I was at. I knew Winston-Salem, I knew Greensboro. I knew what I was getting, what we were getting ourselves into. That I think was going to happen? No. And so we moved, and literally the night before we moved, I was just bawling. I was like, I hate you guys. Like, I don't want to move. Like, why are you guys? The whole spiel. And I guess I don't want to say it created an anger because you're a kid. You're rebellious. But it was just like, you're taking me away from my friends, my family, and my homies, and it's just like you're taking me away from a lifestyle that I was comfortable in to a whole new lifestyle, to a better lifestyle. Better quality of living, better air, no rats, no nothing. So it was a big shift. And like I said, as a teenage kid, you're going through puberty. It was a lot at once to take in, and it definitely created a certain like pivot towards my actions a lot of times. So
all right, we've talked a little bit about habits. I want to hear your philosophy on setting goals, because obviously with multiple businesses, you've probably had to have at least one goal in your life so far. So what's your philosophy on goal setting, and how have you been able to work up to these achievements so far?
I feel like goals have taken a lot of controversy, because it's like we say we want to set a goal to make $10,000 this year or save. We never accomplish it because we're not consistent. So in my mind, it's like, okay, how consistent am I going to be to reach that objective? I don't think of it as goals anymore, because everybody can say, new year, new me, I have the goal of losing 10 pounds. Okay, whatever. You never do it. You actually gain the 10 pounds back. What are you going to do to obtain that objective? How are you going to get there? That's how I see it. And that's how I try to live by in terms of managing all these businesses. Okay, how am I going to reach the objective of surpassing a different revenue this year? Mm-hmm. How consistent is me and my team going to be to reach that objective? And how are we going to pivot and make it better? So to say.
That's a key theme that I've noticed from a lot of undergrads that I've been interviewing lately, which is there's a sense of like setting these like very large and lofty goals, mm-hmm. which is nice. But then we set these goals and then we don't achieve them, mm-hmm. because they're crazy and insane goals that like make no sense essentially for us. Or at least we aren't there yet. We're able to like throw out like a crazy amount of money or whatever that we want to make, mm-hmm. or save or whatever it is. And then we don't have any sort of habits in place to get us there. Right. And if we do, we try it for like 2 weeks, see no results, and then stop. That's something that I've started to shift even myself into, which is just trying to add in these habits and form those routines like we were talking about earlier, mm-hmm. that are going to get you that result over time.
Oh yeah.
It's establishing a sense of like delayed gratification. Have you heard of more of delayed gratification?
A little bit, yeah.
Cool. Delayed gratification, just for people who maybe haven't known, is basically like doing something like hard now or that you maybe don't want to do to have a better result later on.
Right.
And opposite of that would be like instant gratification, like taking the pleasure right now.
Yeah.
And then like you get stuff hard later. But making a more delayed gratification effort to like do things that maybe I don't want to do right now, but mm-hmm. I'm able to do consistently that are going to bring me like the effort later on. Perfect example of this, the easiest delayed gratification thing in the history of the world is, well, not easiest, but like easiest like example is like going to the gym. So you show up at the gym. I mean, like it can be fun, of course, but like, and I know it's fun like for me now, but like showing up there and like I had a leg day today. So like going in the morning, like squatting, and you at the end of the day, like you see like maybe like a small pump, but like nothing crazy. Mm-hmm. And you keep doing that for like forever. And then eventually like you get bigger and you're stronger.
Right, right.
And it's hard now and you see like not a lot of results, but then over time you see results and you get better over time.
For sure. I think one of the big things that myself included, young entrepreneurs, older entrepreneurs, any entrepreneur starting out or in the business, one of the main things that we struggle with is consistency. And you're going to hear me talk about that a lot. I've said it maybe 10,000 times already.
Very consistent.
It's hard to be consistent. It's hard to wake up every day, wash your hair, go to the gym, like you just said. It's hard to wake up every day, take notes about how to grow your podcast, or how I can fix this property, or how, different things. It's hard to be consistent in the business sense, only because we're human. And sometimes, like you just said, and you mentioned, instant gratification versus delayed gratification. Okay, if I do this now, I'll deal with the consequences later. Oh, I'll push it off. Versus, okay, let me work my way up and get my prize at the end, which is well worth it. So consistency is something that, again, a lot of people struggle with, and something that should be looked at more, because, again, it's something that's very difficult.
It is. And even I've noticed that myself, especially whenever I was starting out, because it's very easy to like say that you do something and do it like every once in a while. And part of that, I think, comes down to building out those routines. That's where I've found success in it myself.
Right.
And even then, like, I'm not like, I'm pretty good at that, but I've actually almost been trying to loosen up on myself a tiny bit to improve other goals, because I spent like a lot of time myself like just solely working on building out this business and the podcast and everything. And I kind of not fell off, but like I noticed like other parts of my life like slipping a little bit, not like too unbelievably crazy,
right,
but enough where I was like, hey, like I do have other goals. I should probably focus on the stuff.
Oh yeah.
So I've been working on that and even switching up routines. And like that's something about myself as well, is I like to try different stuff and like maybe switch up routines, because then I'm able to then experience things, like tell other people about them and understand like, oh, like maybe this didn't work for me, but maybe it can work for somebody else, which is nice. But I think the routines is a big part of consistency.
Oh yeah.
And I've even done this for like a little while where I will, like I put, like I said, like earlier, like I put like pretty much everything in my calendar. And if I really need to get something done, I'll put in like, all right, I need to work like at this time, which is good. And it's keeping that consistency, something that I want to find the exact thing that I wrote on it. I had the opportunity a while ago, actually it was in January, to go to a speaker event and have lunch with Dr. John Maxwell, the famous like author on leadership, if you've heard of him, through like High Points program. So that was something that was good.
Nice.
It was super fun. But I got like lunch with him and like a couple like people as well, like 12 other people. One of the things that he said, I want to see if I wrote a couple of blogs on this, 2 blog posts. I'm trying to find like the exact thing. If not, I'm just going to like free say a lot of the stuff anyways. Last one was, I guess I don't have it in one of the blogs, but he was talking about how basically a form of like consistency. So whenever he's been writing books for at least like 50 years, I think it was at this point.
Right.
And one of the points that he said explicitly in that lunch, pretty much over and over again, was the importance of consistency in his writing and how he would write at least something every single day. And he did, I think he had like, I couldn't tell you the exact thing, but it was like 5 different habits that he'd just do every single day that he made a point to make every single day. He was like, even if it's like writing like a paragraph or a couple lines, like I'm going to write every single day. And I think whatever it is that you're building out, business or like your body, like physically, like going to the gym or like any sort of relationship, like whatever it is that you need to do, it's like finding those like 5 things or a few things that you can do every single day to make sure that you are like building yourself in the direction that you want to be. So like for myself, like an example of that, I've done it for like now 2.5, nearly 3 years at this point, probably, is like meditating every single day for like, even if it's like 5 minutes or something, which can sound like a lot, but like I have meditated for like 2 hours at one point. But I like meditating and like journaling and like making sure like I do that, and then like I'm good, and like that's building like the mental health stuff and like making sure that I can think correctly normally. And it's good. It keeps me on track. And like finding those things to like for the podcast and whatnot, or businesses, finding whatever it is that like is going to push you forward that you can do consistently, even if it's it's like a tiny thing. It's like the 2-minute rule from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits.
Definitely.
Are there any habits that you do during your day-to-day that are maybe the small things that help you be consistent in these actions that you do?
It's going to be funny, but call my mom. I mean, again, she's a a big, aside from my sister, but she's, and my parents, obviously, both of them. They're one of the big reasons why I created my shift. They're my why story, right? So stuff like that, calling her, even if I don't call her, shooting her a text somehow, or my grandmother, calling her every day. Also trying to journal. I've been really slacking. I can't lie to you. I've been so busy. I used to journal every day. I even had a diary at one point, growing up, so, till this day. But journaling is definitely underrated. I feel like a lot of people think that people journal, just to write down quick notes or like for therapy or anything like that. They're going to something. No, like journaling is definitely a big way to make sure your mental health is in check, like you just mentioned. So between journaling, making sure that my loved ones are, being called in some shape or form, that makes me firm to know that I need to continue staying on the correct track of life. And it keeps me going. So
it's good. I think to your point on journaling, and I think that's like a consistency thing as well. Like it's just like building in like a routine. Like I do it like right after I meditate, which happens right after I shower. Yeah. So like it's one of those things. Like I just have it in a routine, and if you can throw it in a routine, like it'll work. I think we have established that as well.
For sure. I mean, and this is aside from other things like your podcasting, your reading. I mean, obviously, these are essential things for an entrepreneur, for myself, that have been built in my routine, right? But those 3 things are very a priority to me, even though journaling I haven't slacking, but it's definitely a priority to me.
It's all good. I'm calling you out now on it.
Yeah. Hey,
Liz, we're going to need you to start journaling again. Come on. That's your first note in your journal. Jack called me out for journaling at the podcast.
And, you need that. As an entrepreneur, you need that because you think, okay, I have my businesses. Yeah, I'm doing this. And everything is going right. And then you lose track of the principle, which is, okay, my habits. Okay, I used to read before I went to gym, or I used to do this before I did this. I used to do this. And you're like, dang, life takes a toll on you. Lifes. Okay, life will never stop lifing. Okay.
That's a great one.
Yeah. So if you allow life to take its toll, it'll lose you. Right? You get lost in the day. I mean, we lose track of time all the time. But if you have that persistency in your schedule and you have this and you do this, it's going to make your life a lot better. Not just personally, but mentally and physically.
You can take control. Let me rephrase this. You can, exactly like what you were just saying, like you can let life take the reins, and you will probably not like where it ends up, most likely. Or you can take on the pain of building what you want to in your life, which is going to be harder than just kind of going with the flow and letting life happen.
Oh yeah.
But that will reward you in the future. And I say that as well, like again, like I turned 21 like 2 weeks ago when we were recording this. Today, actually. Happy birthday. Let's go. We're about to cut this out. Let's go get drinks afterwards. That's what we have here. But happy birthday. That's
Thanks.
Awesome. You made it a priority to come here on your birthday?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It keeps.
That's awesome.
I like having a packed schedule. So I know, like, if you know me, I like being busy.
Nice.
Like, I need to be busy. It keeps me going. So
yeah, I feel that too. I make my birthday like I just like to.
Yeah, I don't really make it a priority.
It's not a huge thing,
honestly.
But there you go. Well, sweet. That's awesome. But yeah, like I'm 21 and like I haven't, like I don't have like the most amazing results of things yet. But I can tell you, like from starting out, like going to the gym at like my freshman year and like seeing these habits, like I could barely meditate for like a minute and I meditated for 2 hours in one sitting before. I could barely bench the bar and like I didn't have like a bunch of stuff going on there. And like now I can bench like a solid amount of weight for like where I'm at now. So like even the small things like that, I have some successes in a sense there, which is cool. But I would say that whenever I've seen myself and what I've heard from other people, especially other undergrads, whenever I make it a point to do something that's hard, usually I might not like it in the moment, but afterwards, that's whenever I feel a lot better.
Definitely.
I want to bring this up too as well. Something that you mentioned, just kind of like doing the fundamentals and like those small things that are important. I realized this a little bit ago whenever I noticed like some of the other parts of my life, like honestly, like kind of faltering, which was I wrote this down in my notes, and sometimes I just write down like notes in my notes app, and I'm able to pull them up and look at it. It's pretty sweet. That's like not even fully journaling, I guess, but like it's just like
that's important though. It goes a long way. Yeah.
This one's called, the title's The Law of Interconnection, which I said it states, in order to be successful in one, you must be successful in all of the things, talking about your small habits. So an example of this for me was, or it says like your life is connected, and when like one thing breaks, like subsequently other things are going to start to break. It's like you crack somewhere, like you crack fully. And the example that I gave was like whenever you stop exercising, then like your diet's going to start faltering, and whenever that happens, like your diet's off, then your work quality is going to decrease, and like the rest of the stuff goes on. So it's like these small things that you think like aren't super important are actually the foundation that like builds out the entire rest of your life, that like has you doing well, and it just goes back to like you doing well and like the small thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would say some of the habits that I mentioned just now, journaling. That was one thing that, even though it's something so small, it creates such a big shift because you're so used to, okay, you have your schedule, you make time for this, you make time for that. Okay, I'm gonna make time for my journaling. It got to the point where, or get to the point now, where you're so busy, you're so occupied, and you lose sight of things. Like, I feel like once you take out something that you have as a consistent routine, for me at least to say, it messes up your whole game. So a good example is, I like busy days. I like having things back to back. As you see, I came my birthday. Like I planned for it, right? But it keeps me going. And it keeps my flow of things moving. So the importance of having that consistent schedule, having that consistent routine, is definitely, or will definitely go a long way in your success. So like I said, you take out the journaling, okay, I'm slacking here, I'm slacking there. I'm not giving my 100% sometimes, and that's something that I have to really put back in because it's hard. Like I said, life do be lifing.
There you go. You mentioned success. Something that you mentioned here on the form was the fear of success.
Oh yeah. That's my number one fear.
Number one fear?
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us about it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, or going back to the upbringing of, my high school years and being that kind of troublemaker kid and, living that lifestyle. Once I saw that everybody had their way of going, right? Again, I questioned myself, okay, what am I going to do? Who am I? And once that kind of settled in, my first year of college, kind of distinguishing, what I want to do in my life, which route I'm going to take, it sparked the fear, like the fear of being successful, like the fear of letting somebody down, almost to say. Like, okay, I have these businesses, but like, what if I don't succeed down the line? What if this all goes to perish? And I mean, we only have one life. So, and one of the quotes that I go by, I forgot who this was by. But everybody's born with luck, right? But everybody is born with luck, but we will have the same opportunity. So I can start a business. You have the same goal, objective, the same ambition to do it. I'm successful. You're not. Okay. Well, we had the same opportunity to be successful. What did I do that you didn't do? Was it the habits? Was it the routine? Was it investments? It could be anything, right? But it all goes back to the principle of what you do to get there. And you have to distinguish a winning mindset versus a broke mindset. I always strive to have that winning mindset because I had that broke mindset. I had, okay, I'm in high school now and I'm doing my thing. I'm worried about college later. I'm worried about, my career later. I'm not really worried about that right now. It hit. I graduated. Okay, Lisbeth, what you gonna do now? You got no money. You're a college student, broke college student, freshman. You have no ambition, no goals. You're still in the same crowd. That's another thing. who you surround yourself makes a lot of who you are today. If you surround yourself by people who smoke weed every day, people who skip school, people who do all these different things, that's who you're going to be. Now, if you say, okay, I surround myself versus a CEO, a CFO, a millionaire, a person who has a podcast, a person who's doing something in their life that adds value, that's who you're going to be. That's who you're going to be at the end of the day.
That's that end point of surrounding yourself with people who are successful and not doing things that you don't want to do was a massive, I think it's just a massive thing to really think about. Because, I mean, if you put yourself in that position, like you said, it's the average of the 5 people that you hang out with. It's like that quote of like, who you hang out with is who you're going to be. I heard that from a podcast. I'd heard of this before, but it just comes to mind. It was the advice that another undergrad gave. He actually goes to High Point as well. It was Mikey Russo, for whenever I throw it in there. There we go. But
he's awesome, by the way. I watch his podcast. He's dope.
Sweet. Thank you. Yeah, he's a great guy. I love seeing him on campus every now and then. Couldn't contact him for a little while because he was out like over in Europe for like, I don't even know how long, which is kind of sweet. But sick guy. He said at the end, his advice that he gave was, if you want to be a millionaire, surround yourself with 5 other millionaires. And that's what he's trying to do. That's what he's done with a lot of the other stuff, is like being very selective of who you're going to hang out with, because you don't want to jeopardize like your future and your mindset. Mm-hmm. I think as well, what you said about the opportunities, like we all have an opportunity to do whatever it is that we want to do. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's something that we kind of lose sight of sometimes. Oh, yeah. Because it's like, oh man, like what are they doing? Like, why are you being like so much more like successful than I am or whatever? And it's like this, like you said, like the broke mindset, like that victim mentality. But switching everything in your mind to be like, okay, like it doesn't really matter like what this other person's doing, because that's their life. It's like, cool, they're being successful, or these other people like aren't being successful. But like, why don't I like take control of my life and like become accountable for me and go out there and like go and win like myself. Right. Like win the day, win my life. And like, once I figure out like exactly what I want to do with myself. Oh yeah. To then move forward and do really well in the future. Right. And take these opportunities that are being given to me.
For sure.
Something that stood out to me, and it's like a quote that I think just like sums up you from my research and stuff. And I think it works as well. Some of what I've heard. You seem like you are just trying to find a way to win. Oh yeah. Like that's what I got. Like from starting up like businesses from different things, like totally different from each other. Yeah. And then I remember I found your Instagram. Like there's the Instagram for like the agency and like the other Instagrams. I somehow managed to, like, I'm getting good at this, I guess. Yeah. Find like your actual Instagram where you have like a bunch of reels and different stuff going on as well, and things. I thought it was super cool, honestly. But
that was just back in my like area there.
Yeah, it seems like you're just trying to find a way to win whatever it is. Oh yeah. And no matter what happens, you have this winning mindset to where it doesn't matter what you succeed at, like you're going to succeed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would you like to speak on that? Was my observation pretty correct?
Yeah. No, you're on the money, right?
There you go.
So yeah, I'm never content with sitting still. That's again back to what I was saying.
You're moving a little bit too.
Yeah.
Physically.
Yeah. And so I'm always wanting to learn different avenues in the business. Obviously, in each business, you have, the backdoor stuff. So the finances, how to run the business, the sales part, all that stuff, right? But just experiencing different avenues and just absorbing as much knowledge as I can. I don't think at any time soon I'm planning to have another business, right? Because it's a lot right now. But there's just so many things that you learn with digital marketing. Like, okay, like this is how you can grow a business with these simple tools and these simple steps, like SEO, HTML. Like these are things that I never thought I can learn, right? You go to real estate. Okay, how to actually close on a property, how to wholesale, how to get these different contracts, how to work with these big different companies that want to sell houses for cash. Like, it's so many things that you learn, that I have learned really. And I love that. I love the adrenaline. Maybe it's because I'm from New York, and you're always like up and down, moving here, moving there. It's a big city, right? But I love that. I love the idea of never ending knowledge, so to say.
The idea of never ending knowledge.
Yeah.
It's like I said, I don't know if I mentioned it in the actual podcast, but I know I said it to you earlier. I know enough now that I don't know anything.
Oh, yeah.
And once you get there and you can almost fall in love with learning there.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good feeling because you can always find something to learn and grow yourself.
For sure. For sure.
Last thing I got here for you, the classic question at the end of the podcast here. What advice would you give to other undergrads who are looking to excel in life?
Build your habits early and establish your personal brand. Simple as that. Once you define your habits and you create a consistent schedule, and it's not going to be something that's going to be easy, right? I mean, the amount of times that I've said, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I never do it. We're human. But hold yourself accountable. Create those habits. Read, listen, write every day. Read, listen, write. 3 simple things. And it's so simple that we make it difficult, right? We don't find time for these things because we're invested in other things. We're invested in baseball. Or I'm going to the game. I'm going to the party. I'm going to this. Okay. Well, you're going to suck, right? So create those habits. Create that consistency. And understand who you are. And it's hard nowadays finding yourself, right? Because we live in a world where so many things are happening and it's a very evil world, to say, right? But establishing who you are and identifying your personal brand to later then implement that into your business, dude, like, you're going to be good. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Liz, thank you for coming out and making the trip to High Point as well. First person who I've interviewed who is not from High Point in person.
Awesome.
Except for, wait, that's actually not true. In Point, first person I've interviewed not from High Point in High Point here.
Awesome.
So there you go.
I mean, I'm happy to be here, man. I'm hoping to come back again.
Ooh, wow. That's a tough ask. We'll see how it goes, but we'll definitely be in touch.
For sure.
I hope you enjoyed another episode of Exceptional Undergrads. If you found inspiration in today's episode, head on over to our website, exceptionalundergrads.com, for all of our show notes and resources from all the episodes. We're always looking for new undergrads to showcase in future episodes. If you'd like to be featured, hit up our Apply Here page, submit the application, we'll get back to you shortly. And as always, guys, be the exception.